I'm Molly Blackall, I's Global Affairs correspondent, here in Atlanta, Georgia, to learn more about the fight for abortion access in a state which has one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the US. The US Supreme Court's decision to roll back Roe v. Wade means that the federal government no longer enshrines the right to have an abortion. The battle is now front and centre at this year's midterm elections.
Men who don't have a clue what they're talking about should not be passing laws that make health decisions for women.
They're already taking control or trying to take control over women's bodies and their rights. So who's next?
This is Georgia's state capitol building. It's the seat of power in the state, where all the key decisions, like those on reproductive rights, are made.
My name is Rula Abisamra, and I am the state campaign director with Amplify Georgia Collaborative.
Many activists have been raising the alarm for years about the state's attempt to crack down on abortion. In Georgia, the procedure is banned after approximately 6 weeks of pregnancy, before many people know they're pregnant. Ruler explained why the change to federal law is impacting women in Georgia so acutely, and why this election is key to fighting back.
For 3 years, it was held up in the courts, in federal court, because it clearly contradicted our federal protections under Roe versus Wade. Then with the fall of Roe versus Wade in this summer, in June, the legal situation changed, the landscape changed, and state bans like this that previously had been stopped from going into effect, they now had a path forward. Since essentially the end of July, start of August of this year, almost all abortions in Georgia have ceased. Well, there's a few reasons that these midterms are important. It's important in more than only the avenue of abortion access and abortion rights. You can't have compassionate policy making in every other area, but also ban abortion, for example. We don't expect that what is going to happen in our state government is that within one election, the balance of power will change from anti-abortion to pro-abortion and pro-choices, and suddenly they will have the numbers to undo this ban and undo the other restrictions. But it is a possibility in our future.
I'm meeting with Senator Jen Jordan. She's running for Attorney General here in Georgia, and if she wins, she'd be the first female Attorney General that the state has ever had. She's made abortion access and reproductive rights really central to her midterms campaign.
So midterms tend to be elections for state leadership, So we get about a 50% turnout than what we get from presidential normally. But I think with respect to what happened in Dobbs and the reversal of Roe is basically the Supreme Court said that this issue is for the states, right? And so the role of the states started to take a lot more prominence.
So this has always been a really important issue for Jen. She first came to prominence in 2019 when they passed the 6-week abortion ban in Georgia, and this is a ban before most women even know that they're pregnant. And Jen gave a speech where she talked about her experiences with miscarriage and how under this law, women like her could be prosecuted. We always knew that a rollback of our rights were on the table. We didn't know when Jen launched this campaign that Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned. This would be the top issue in this election.
Sometimes you don't pick the fight, sometimes the fights pick you. Abortion's a hard issue. It is a hard issue, and we tend to be a more conservative state when it comes to that. And so I think there does have to be an understanding with respect to that. But look, men who don't have a clue what they're talking about should not be passing laws that make health decisions for women.
But since the Supreme Court's decision, men elected to state positions across the US have a greater say than ever about women's right to an abortion. Jen says the role will enable her to allow abortion laws to be constitutionally challenged, and means she could choose not to prosecute those who violate current restrictions, bringing a moment of relief for women worried about the immediate effects of the overturning of Roe. The stakes for women at this election are extremely high. So what are campaigners doing on the doorstep to raise the issue? I'm on my way to meet Sister Love, a women's health organisation. They campaign and offer services on a whole range of issues, from HIV and AIDS to abortion access and abortion care. I'm going to be meeting with their staff today to hear more about their work in the run-up to the midterms, and also following as their teams go out door knocking and encouraging people to vote on the doorsteps.
We had a president who was able to appoint so many judges that affirm seriously conservative issues. And I think we're realizing, in hindsight, we should have really been out there, particularly in the 2016 election, and making a difference there and getting out and voting. And we didn't. Now they're taking rights away. If they're taking the right to abortion away, what are they going to take out next?
In keeping with the mission of reproductive justice, for me, it's extremely important, especially in the post-Roe era, for us to mobilize voters to get out there and to know that they have a voice, know that they have a right to vote, and to have the opportunity to change Georgia. Now is the time to be on the right side of history, with things changing so drastically, with so many groups being marginalized and not having access to human rights, particularly women seeing their right to choose being absolutely eliminated. There is no other time than now to do something about it. I hope that it doesn't have to get worse before it gets better, but that tends to be just the story of groups that have fought for equal rights in America, unfortunately.
This particular moment does feel especially heavy. It feels especially important. I'm a Black woman, number one. I show up in that way every single day. So it has always been important. But to be a woman and have her rights stripped away, bit by bit, piece by piece, it's even more important. It's just compounding the things that the experiences that we're having to have. And I think the only way to change that is to vote.
And even if things don't change right away, that I hope that folks stay encouraged and continue to fight, because things will never change if we accept the status quo.